Hello, everybody. This is Mike from the Hey, Are You Still There podcast. My wife Beth and I would like to invite you to join us each week as we examine life at the intersection of marriage, family, careers, and ministry. Through 28 years of ministry, 26 years of marriage, 23 years of professional careers, and 21 years of being parents to 3 kids, our fun and honest discussions promise to have something for everyone. And now, on to the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Hey, Are You Still There podcast. This is Mike.
And Beth.
And we are back once again with another, I'm sure, thrilling and exciting, humorous and touching.
Definitely touching.
Yeah, you want to start off the show deep like you did last week?
No, I'll try not to. Because I guess we got some negative feedback where people might not want to go that deep all the time.
No, I don't think it was negative. They were just, I think like...
taken aback. It's not our normal content.
Kip did point out that was another 11-minute glimpse into your brain, and he appreciated that.
11 minutes. What was it he said? It took 11 minutes for me to describe what happens in 4 seconds or something like that in my brain. That was a pretty good description. Yeah.
We and the poll question from last week was probably our most voted on and got a lot of responses, a lot of comments. People are passionate about their coffee.
Yes, they are.
And that was just kind of a casual mention last week.
Yeah, we weren't even like...
We talked about it a little bit and kind of wanted to get everyone else's take on it. So we're going to dive right into that. We're going to hit these comments and poll results real quick, and then we'll get into the rest of the show. But the question was just simply coffee,
Yeah.
And with a question mark. And do you rarely or never drink it? Do you drink 1 or 2 cups a day? Or do you need it, as much as you can get it? And I'll give you the numbers first. Do you know what won? Or would you want to guess what won?
Well, I voted. And when I voted, it looked like 1 to 2 cups a day was winning. And I struggled just a little because to say I can't live without it, I don't drink it after probably 12 or 1 p.m. because it'll interfere with my sleep. So I guess you can't, but I definitely think I drink more than 1 to 2 cups. Because if you consider a cup, like my glass, I do those big mugs and refill them a few times.
I've seen you down how many cups is in a half a pot? Because I've seen you drink a half a pot.
Yes, exactly. So I voted on number 3. I guess that puts me squarely in that, right?
I suppose so. Yeah, I guess so. Because rarely or never got 20%.
Crazy.
That was the lowest. But 20% of our listeners that voted, they never or rarely drink coffee. The next highest was need it. Want it, need it, have to have it.
That's me.
That was 34%. And then 1 to 2 cups a day was 46%. So almost half the listeners, they have 1 or 2 cups a day of coffee.
Our listeners, look at them. They can do things in moderation, because we always talk about these extremes in life being dangerous. And our listeners,
do you think the numbers will be different if we had alcohol instead of coffee?
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be the poll question next week. That's exactly what I'm going to do. That's going to be the poll question. We're going to just change coffee to alcohol. And alcohol can be wine, beer, mixed drinks, straight vodka, whatever it is you want. But I thought some of the comments were good.
But then you have everybody that's like Southern and religious, and they'll be like, "Oh, I never have anything," and then you'll know that they probably do.
Yeah, they're all lying. So Kayla, she said, "I didn't see the option. We'll die without it." So I went with number 3.
I like that.
That's the person. That's somebody I picture. Yeah. Like they have an IV bag hooked up to them, and they're just walking around, and it's just coffee. Shirley said, I've drank coffee since I was a little girl.
Yeah,
I drink 100% Colombian decaf most of the time, and prefer my coffee black.
Now you talk about life goals. I aspire to drink my coffee black because we've talked about this. If you go on mission trips and things, we can almost always get coffee, but you can't always get the creamer or milk. And I don't like the powdered stuff. I'm a snob when it comes to that. Some people are snobs. I cannot do the powder. No. Maybe you could ask that. Do you do powder? Cannot stand the powder.
Your mom said that she To me, I mean, to me, it's like getting non-alcoholic beer. It's like, what's the point?
Well, for her, caffeine will upset her stomach, but I think that now
Now you go with the health stuff again, Beth. Didn't you learn last week? You can't be sharing this stuff.
Sorry, Mom. I know that it's HIPAA protected, which it's not. But anyway, not HIPAA protected. But just saying, that would be why. But also, even decaffeinated has some caffeine. Well, then tea's going to have caffeine and upset your stomach too. Anyway, never mind.
All right. Ellen said, I was a little girl too, and I still do, with cream.
Yep, that's me, with cream. Yeah. But I was not a little girl. I was like you. I didn't really drink coffee till much later in life. I was not a coffee drinker till I got older.
Yeah, but I don't think Ellen understood the question.
Oh.
I think she was just letting Shirley know. She said, I was a little girl too.
No, I think you're misreading it. That was not.
That's exactly what was said.
But that is not what she meant.
I think she was just agreeing, oh, Shirley, I was a little girl too at one point.
No, that was not what she meant.
We don't know that for a fact.
Yeah.
This is going to kill you. All right? Doug Bass. We're going to have him on the show one day because he has designed a new board game. And we're going to have Mr. Doug Bass, award-winning board game designer and publisher. We're going to have him on, but he responded and said...
And very hip. He's very trendy, too.
Oh, he is very hip. He is an espresso drinker. He does 4 to 8 shots a day, down from 10 to 12.
Oh, my gosh. What? Okay.
I've spent a lot of time with Doug.
Is he just like shaking in the morning?
I've spent a lot of time with Doug at some board game stuff. And, although I haven't seen him with the espresso, he's a Monster Energy drink fiend.
I've seen him with the Monster Energy drinks.
He will double fist some Monster Energy drinks.
But interesting tidbit. So everyone always thinks like they'll joke if I go in because I'm kind of, energetic. And I'll be like, oh, I'm going to have coffee. And they'll be like, oh, that's the last thing you need. Depending on your brain chemistry, for people like me, coffee can actually, with the ADHD brain, calm my brain down. That's one reason people naturally do it when they have ADHD. Sometimes it makes you more focused, and sometimes, but even...
Why are you just now telling me this? I'd have been fixing you coffee with every meal.
Because it will still disturb.
You'd have had 2 to 3 pots a day.
Because even though it has that great effect on me, it still interferes with my ability to sleep all night, I think. I don't know. Maybe everything interferes with that ability. It may not be coffee, so I'm just trying to be careful.
Now, we have a friend...
But it will upset my stomach to drink that much. So I'm like my mother. I can't do 4 to 8 shots down from 10 to 12. That's crazy.
We have a friend. He's a little bit older than us. He drinks coffee before bed, like caffeinated coffee. He will drink a whole cup of coffee at 10:30 at night, go straight to bed, and sleep all night long. Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
That is.
I can't do that either. I have to cut off caffeine at a certain
Because
point.
even though it helps me focus, I'm not going to sleep. Like my body won't slow down to sleep. Yeah.
All right. Dawn says, I started drinking coffee when I was about 48. I drink it occasionally, but I do like it. And that's kind of how I was. I always enjoyed the flavor of coffee, like coffee ice cream. Mm-hmm. Like I love that.
Now, see, I don't like anything coffee flavored.
Anything coffee flavored I love, but I did not start drinking coffee until COVID. So you only talk, I've only been drinking coffee for about 5 years. So I was about 45 when I really drank coffee and drink it on a regular basis now. So I'm kind of right there with you. Mm-hmm. Scott says he does 1 or 2 cups a day at work or when it's cold outside.
Yeah.
And this is somebody that actually works outside quite a bit. So that's kind of our coffee.
Which you agree with that, but when I've been and it's like 100 degrees and I'm like, I'm getting a hot coffee, you're always like, what are you doing?
That is insane to me. We've been out with like your parents before, and it will be July 4th. Mm-hmm. And it's 98 degrees with 100% humidity, and your dad's like, bring me a coffee. And I'm like, what?
But I'm the same. Like, I don't see, and this is where I think I'm kind of a purist, or I'm pretty picky about my coffee. I don't like coffee ice cream or coffee flavored things generally. And I don't like cold coffee drinks. I've tried, the iced coffee drinks. I've tried some of the, what's the cold brew or whatever. Yeah, I just don't, I feel
pour over. Is that a
no,
cold
pour
brew?
over is hot. It's like, it's just, you're pouring it over. I do love my French press.
See,
I'm bougie that way. I love my French press.
I don't understand coffee. And like Starbucks. I never go to Starbucks. One, because I think it's kind of pricey, but two, I don't speak their language. I don't understand
all the phrases.
Why can't they just be small, medium, large?
Or like when you come in and you're like, I would like this with a touch of, I don't know. I can't even do the fake words, like the things they order. It's so long sometimes.
And even like local coffee shops, I'll go in, and if they have a board up, like their big board that has everything they normally serve overwhelms me. I don't know what any of that is. I don't know if it's hot or cold. I don't know. So if they have a special board up that says, hey, our drink of the month is this, and it might have cookies and cream latte or whatever, blah, blah, blah. I might order that because it's already ready made for me right there in front. But if they don't, I'm just like, just give me a drip. Just give me a normal cup of coffee, because I am intimidated by all the coffee lingo. I don't understand it. I don't speak it. I'm not bilingual when it comes to
coffee,
to coffee phrases. And so I can't.
And I don't particularly love, every once in a while as a treat, like a cinnamon latte or something, I might want it. But most of the time, if I get a latte too, I'm just getting the straight coffee and the milk that's in it. I'm not doing a lot of the flavored syrups, because I do feel like too at some of the bougie places, you get to the point where it's like, would you like a little bit of coffee with your syrup and your milk and your everything else that's in it? And not that that's bad, but to me, that's not like the coffee vibe, that's not that flavor that I'm going for. And I'm like you, but one thing I will say, I do like flavored coffees. And right now, my favorite, Lowe's Foods, which is a grocery store, if anybody's listening and isn't from our area, they don't have them everywhere, but they have their own coffee beans. And so if you go in there, they also have like this bar area, and at night they'll sell alcohol, but during the morning they sell coffee. And every day they have like usually a general, like a dark roast, a light roast, and then they'll have a flavored coffee. So it's always like, what flavor will it be today? And sometimes it's something I'm like, oh, it's just some type of like nut flavor coffee or something. I'm really disappointed. But sometimes they have like snickerdoodle. Oh, so good. I love it. It just makes me so happy.
Well, I'm going to make probably every coffee drinking purist stop listening right now when I have a confession. I'll go to Panera.
Right.
And they typically have dark roast, light roast, hazelnut. You could blind taste test me on all three of those, and I think they all taste the same. I can't tell
has that like aftertaste of the hazelnut.
I don't get
how
it.
Can you not taste that?
I can drink a dark roast and then drink a hazelnut, and to me it's the exact same coffee. I have no coffee taste buds. Like, I cannot distinguish
then what do you even like about it if you can't tell like subtle, and these aren't even subtle differences. I think I could see like maybe a medium roast and a dark roast or something. Somebody can't necessarily tell the difference, particularly if they put cream. But
you know what I like?
But a flavored coffee?
My friend Bud has a coffee mug that he drinks out of every day. And on the coffee mug, it says, I drink coffee so I can stay regular. And I think that's what I do. I think that it keeps me. Oh, gosh,
TMI. We don't need to know that.
Like, I don't love it. Like, it's weird. It's like, if I never had another cup of coffee, I would be totally fine. I could,
But like for me, I think I've told you too, it's not just, I think for me, it brings back like the memories of like, oh my gosh, I went on my girls trip and we all sat and had coffee in our mugs and talked, or like in the winter when
it reminds like, you too were a little girl one time.
No, but I didn't drink coffee when I was a little girl, even though I was a little girl one time. But yeah, it just is, for me, I think a lot of it is truly, I like it, but it is sort of an acquired taste. I don't know that anybody just rolls out of bed and they're like, whoa, this coffee is a good taste, And so I think for me, it's about this, actually the smell's better than the taste sometimes, but it's about the whole experience of having coffee.
And I have gotten to the point when I first started drinking the coffee, I would put sugar and cream in it.
Yeah.
And I'd have to doctor it up to make it pleasant. And I'm at the point now where I'll just do a little cream.
Yeah.
And if I got to drink it black, I'll drink it black.
Yeah, because we do half and half, and then every once in a while, a little sprinkle of cinnamon.
Yeah. That kind of takes a little bit of the bitterness away.
Yeah.
We're going to continue as a couple of the comments, non-coffee related. Taryn wrote in. Taryn is a unique name, isn't it?
It is. I like it.
And this Taryn is the first time I had ever heard that name, Taryn.
Yeah.
And then Josh and I went to Chick-fil-A this week, and the young girl that waited on us, her name tag was Taryn. So there's two
But
Taryn's.
how fun must it be to have a cool name? You know, I mean, I know people mispronounce it and stuff, but like, you know, it's kind of neat to have a different name that makes you stand out and people remember it.
Yeah.
I like that. Anyway.
She said she would love a podcast on Disney hacks and tips. My family and I are going this December for the first time and have no clue where to begin. And you and Maria are actually planning on doing a Disney hack.
Yes,
podcast.
we are going to try to do that. Yes, and it will be just our experiences, what's worked for us, what hasn't.
And a lot. She did add coffee. She had 3 points. She said, coffee is life. Don't even approach me before my first cup. No French press. We have a Bonavia. What? A Bonavita?
It's a fancy coffee.
I don't even know what that is.
So,
is that like somebody that works for her that makes the coffee for her? Is that their name? I have a Bonavia that makes my coffee. And she brings it to me whenever I need it.
Yes. And that way she doesn't even have to like talk to anybody or see anybody because the coffee just shows up in her hand. She opens her eyes and the coffee is there in her hand. Yeah.
Her husband is so desperate for her to get her coffee, he hires somebody to come
and deliver it. I'm sure that's what it is. We won't Google it or anything. We'll know that's what it is.
And since you shared my personal health information with the entire world last week.
Okay.
This comment will lead to this discussion. She says, as a fellow sleep apnea sufferer, I've had 3 sleep studies done, and I'm currently using a BiPAP. It's life-changing. Hit me up for tips. I mean, maybe we should have Taryn on, do a pop-up podcast on CPAPs and sleep apnea.
Well, what's nuts is we already disclosed poor Bill's information about his, but how many people have told me since that they have sleep apnea? People I just had a friend.
I feel like we need to have a support group there.
Yeah, you should. You all could get together and you can talk about the different equipment and little tips for what you can do. And
right now, that's what I need.
The tips. You're struggling.
Last Wednesday, so full disclosure, we're recording this on a Wednesday. We normally record on a Friday, but we have a little adventure planned for this weekend. So Beth and I are going to be here, which I'll get into in a minute. But we're recording this on a Wednesday. So it's been 1 full week now with my CPAP machine. And I hate it.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping worse now than I did before it. I can't sleep. I'm more tired now. And I
feel like every morning at around, I don't know, is it 4 or 5? 4 o'clock. It's like clockwork. You get up, you take it off, and then you don't have it on.
I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I can't do it. And for me, it's making my nose congested. So,
but explain to them which one you have, because you were so like, oh, we can't talk about my personal health information.
Okay, the one the doctor prescribed me that he thought would be best for me and my level of apnea is the over the nose. And so that's the one that I have.
I think it's the most frowned upon, according to the studies, the unofficial studies I've done, just asking people that have it.
Well, that's the one Bill has, and he loves it.
Well, okay, I don't know. I mean, and Bill's an expert. We've established.
An expert. He's an expert on French press and CPAPs. We know this. But I am just, so I've learned after talking to a few more people that I need to possibly tweak my humidity and my hose temperature.
Who would have thought that there would be so much to this?
Yeah, and so I'm going to try that tonight. So I'm going to tweak some stuff.
How do you tweak the humidity? You just dial it up?
So you can practically be dialed down.
Is it like humidity, like in the summer here in North Carolina, where you're practically swimming through the air because you have that much humidity going in?
That's exactly it.
That's what you've got going right now?
Some people, I was reading on Reddit, that's one of my favorite websites. That's where I get all my information about CPAPs and political information, because it's in conspiracies.
And conspiracy theories and coffee. Anyway, keep
But yes, some of the people that live in the Southeast, the CPAP machine has like a little water container that you got to fill up every night. They said they don't even use their water container. They use
because we already
zero.
have humidity.
And they were saying the more humidity was causing them to get congested. And so when they stopped using humidity, they dried out and was able to breathe.
But this is a very dry time of year, though. This is not summer. I mean, it still feels like you would need something.
Well, and I didn't want to make you feel guilty, Beth.
Oh, okay. Please do. Go ahead.
No, I'm not saying this to make you feel guilty because I care about your health more than mine, really.
Yes.
But I did see, don't sleep in a room with a humidifier.
Oh, because I'm putting the humidity in. So I just started the humidifier. I just bought that.
But I can't imagine your little humidifiers doing a whole lot.
Because I mean, it has been so dry and I'm all dried out. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try this humidifier. Well, this means that we're going to have to be like my grandparents were and they slept in separate rooms. Like, so that's
fine. I call the bedroom.
You're going to, no, that's our problem with our house right now. There's not necessarily, it's like, okay, so somebody else is on the couch with all the dogs. I don't know how that works.
You and Cam.
No. Yeah.
So that's my CPAP.
So I would say maybe people who do it, if you have tips for Mike, he's desperately seeking information so that, because I will say it is nice to not hear you sound like you're dying in your sleep or, choking or gasping for air. That part's good. That's
because I'm awake all night.
Sorry, okay. Sorry. That part stinks. Okay. Yeah, you also look like, people talk about the over the mouth and nose and looking like Darth Vader. This one looks more like somebody trying to dress up like an elephant since it only goes over the nose and has like the tube. It looks kind of like an elephant, or something. It's
right.
Very strange. Yeah.
It is weird looking.
Yeah.
And
it's a little Big Brotherish. The way they're like transmitting your information and stuff, like that was surprising. Like it's like when you told me parents only pay for it if you use it this many nights, I'm like, how are they going to know if you're using it? Oh, well, they have this transmitter.
They do.
They're going to know.
It hooks up to the cellular towers and transmits and tells them everything.
This is like next level, like Big Brother knowing.
It's big pharma.
Yeah. Mike turned over at 3 a.m. He took it off at 4:45. Yeah.
Well, we'll see how much I continue to use it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to really keep trying.
You have to. And I think try the different type if this one won't work. If the humidity doesn't work, do the one that's over. I mean, a lot of people who said that they also breathe through, because you were talking about sometimes breathing through your mouth. I think that's why they like the nose mouth one, because you can breathe both ways. Where right now you can't breathe through your mouth, right?
No,
With this
I've got to
thing.
keep my mouth shut.
Yeah. So
I even read some people say
I'll do that. I'll take mouth shut at night, and then you'll just wake up, and I'll be like, "Oh, I was doing it for you." Yeah.
You'll probably take my nose shut too.
No, I won't.
So last Wednesday, I got the CPAP machine. This Wednesday, we're recording the podcast. Next Wednesday is March 5th, and that's Ash Wednesday.
Yes.
Which is the first day of Lent.
Yes.
So I think I'm going to give the CPAP one more week, and then I'll give it up for Lent.
No, you can't do that. No, we're not going back. It has taken so long to get you to this point that you would use this and like medical intervention that you clearly need. And so, no, we're not going back. And listen to the people who tell you once you get it right that it's life-changing in a good way.
I had some people tell me they never got it right.
Okay, on Reddit or in real life?
In real life.
Okay.
I won't mention him by name, but I had a friend say, I had to quit using it because I couldn't.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. One person out of how many people will do a graph and we'll talk about like our friend, the accountant did.
Yes.
Can you touch on that super quickly? The graph?
Yeah, we made a comment a couple of weeks ago.
About the length of our podcast.
Yeah, our friend, we'll call him Sam, is a numbers guy. He is an accountant by trade. And he was complaining that our podcasts are too long because
they're getting longer.
They're about an hour.
But I'm like, then you can just break them up and get a few minutes every day with us.
So to prove his point, he created a whole graph that shows the length of every podcast we've done with a red line increase showing that they're getting longer and longer. Now, there's a few dips.
Yeah.
But for the most part, he felt pretty good about himself. Like he had been vindicated by the black and white material that, you can point to as numbers and graphics.
The only thing that told me is that we have truly arrived now, because when people are taking the time and effort to build a spreadsheet and a graph to prove something, you've arrived.
I think it just shows me Sam's need to be right.
Well, it could be that too. But I was looking on the bright side.
Now, Sam did also point out our two shortest podcasts were the two that you weren't on, that I had Tim and Ross on.
Okay, well...
I just point that out.
Okay, well, let's just have a podcast with you, and we'll see how...
Ross a little inverted, but him, I don't think he is. We talked.
Well, I'm sorry, but I just have a lot going on in my head that tends to come out of my mouth when I'm speaking. Like, I'm a verbal processor, external processor. Like, I can't stop myself. So that's what you get. Now, if we scripted this, I might be able to make it shorter.
It never got to a point where, like Ross, for example, where I said, Ross, tell me about playing chess. And then all of a sudden he goes on an 11-minute tangent on intrusive thoughts. I don't know, that didn't happen.
Okay, but that's my life,
Speaking of Ross, I have to give him a shout out. Him and I played disc golf today. This is a rare 73-degree day and sunny in February in North Carolina. And so he and I took advantage of that this afternoon and went and played disc golf. And Ross got an ace.
Nice.
A hole-in-one. I think that is like his 17th he's gotten in his life.
That's crazy.
So, and there was people on the golf course that were there that were witnessing.
Were you at the church disc golf course or a different one?
Yeah, the church.
Interesting.
So,
Yeah, that's
so there you go.
pretty
Congratulations,
awesome.
Ross.
Yay.
Way to go.
That should be celebrated, Ross.
I acted happy, but I really wasn't.
Because you were jealous. Because you haven't
it's
had
been
an ace
over
in a month.
year since I've had an ace.
Well, part of the problem is your shoulder. I won't go on my intrusive thought tangent / exposing your confidential medical information. But, since you had a shoulder injury, that interfered with your ability to throw the way that you prefer to throw.
You would think that God would do something.
Like what?
I fell off a ladder on a mission trip doing God's work.
Yes.
Now, granted, he prevented me from any serious damage, and it could have been deadly.
It could have been it's scary how bad it could have been.
But it did tear something in my shoulder.
Yeah.
And this is when you're old, when the orthopedic doctor says, well, at your age, I probably wouldn't fix it.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Like with our kids, when they've had knee things, it's like, they practically are like, lay down on the table right now and let me do surgery, And then we go in at our age and they're just like, well, it's all falling apart anyway, so just enjoy your shoulder while you can.
That's pretty much what he said. He was like, at your age, don't worry about it.
Yeah. And that's what your doctor said to you about your knee. Kind of like, it's just, there's no cartilage. It's all going to be bone against bone at some point. So just go till you can't.
But it is my throwing
anymore.
arm. So,
it
does bother me at times, but I'm not using it as an excuse.
The one time that I had carpal tunnel, we don't know if it's because we went.
Oh, God. Tell me about this carpal tunnel.
No, I was just going to say, I was playing a lot of disc golf, and I don't know if it was my technique throwing or that was also during COVID when everybody had gone home, and they said that because people were on the mouse so much. So even though I was in meetings all the time pre-COVID, I was in person, but then, during COVID, you're just there all day at your little computer doing the mouse. And so they had said that there was a lot more carpal tunnel.
How did you survive? Let's do a podcast about that. Survivors of carpal tunnel.
Okay, well, regardless, I'm not saying, what I'm saying or trying to say is that ended my championship reign in my disc golf career, because I've won first place in a tournament for my age division. And pretty much after I had that injury, I never came back.
No.
It just, it's very sad.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Just mention Lent. So, and a church that did not celebrate anything. The only two things they celebrated on the Christian calendar was Christmas and Easter. And anything else within the church calendar, I never knew about. And so the denomination I grew up in never celebrated Lent. When I graduated, finished my internship, and got my first ever permanent full-time job that wasn't an internship, there was a denomination, United Methodist, that celebrated Lent. And so, when that was the first time I think I'd really ever heard of Ash Wednesday and Lent and all of this. And it seemed a little kooky at first. But after going through it that first year, this would have been 98 probably, I fell in love with it. It is my favorite time on the Christian church calendar. And I'll just give you a quick 30,000
Well, I was
foot
just going to say,
flyover.
though, but for me, I had a little bit of exposure to Lent, but didn't actually do a lot with it. But when I was in college, my friend Casey invited me to an Episcopal group. And I was like, I don't even know what an Episcopalian is. I mean, because I was from rural North Carolina. There's not like a lot. I mean, then there weren't a lot of Episcopal churches. I'd grown up the same way. And I remember the lure was, come and Father Bob will give us a pancake dinner, and then I met Father Bob and the rest was history. But as far as just falling in love, with the work that he was doing and with him as a person. But that was my first time too. So I was in college the first time I even heard that there was this thing called Lent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, I think the two biggies that I've kind of fallen in love with is Lent and Advent. Mm-hmm. Advent, essentially Latin for arrival. It's the 4 Sundays before Christmas. And each Sunday represents a different theme. Mm-hmm. And so there's still, I think most churches don't celebrate Advent, but it is a beautiful time to really get focused on what the season represents.
And we even did our Advent for women devotional where we had a devotion every day. Yeah. And so in addition to the candles, you really were focused on peace, hope, love, joy, those weeks. Yeah. And
so Lent, just to give you a 30,000 foot flyover, is not in the Bible. Mm-hmm. You're not going to find it mentioned. You're not going to find Jesus commanding it. The early church, and there's some, I guess, some debate over how early, but it was pretty early. Early group of Christians felt like they wanted to really just mimic and follow the example of Jesus fasting the 40 days in the desert. And so they would give up, meat, for 40 days or something pretty substantial. And you had these Christian groups that would do that, these communities, and they would give that up. And so that's kind of where it started. And so Lent is Latin for spring. And what Lent is the 40 days prior to Easter, not counting Sundays. And so it starts on a Wednesday, and it's called Ash Wednesday. And on that Ash Wednesday, you're encouraged to use that day as a time of sacrifice and mourning, kind of like to give something up. Mm-hmm. And you don't, and this is what I like about Lent is the things that are a sacrifice for me may not be a sacrifice for you. Like if someone was to say, hey, Mike, why don't you, for Lent, give up coffee for 40 days.
Right. You'd be like,
I
okay,
could do that.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be, but
some of those people that can't live without it,
that would be a struggle.
Or Doug might be in trouble. His body might literally go into withdrawals.
Yeah, if I said Doug, no Monster,
no 14,
and no espresso.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what I like about the modernized version of Lent is you're still observing something that's a sacrifice, something that you want to give up. And for some, it's giving up something that's negative in your life. Mm-hmm. There's been times, in the past where I was a bit more addicted to social media than I am now, and I would give up social media for Lent. And that was hard, some people give up TV. Some people try to give up smoking. Some people try to give up drinking alcohol. Mm-hmm. There's different things that are vices for people that they know get in the way of their life and their relationship with God, or takes time away from God, or takes time away from their family. And so they want to give that up. And other things you give up may not be bad, but what you give up might open up things for you to experience God in a new way. Mm-hmm. Because the point is, when you sacrifice something, when you give something up, you're going to have that longing for it. If you don't have a longing for it, then
You
that's
didn't
not
give up
it's
anything
not
that
a
meant much to you.
sacrifice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But when you have that longing, you use that longing to focus on God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's because, do we have that longing for God? You know, most of us don't. So, but I'm longing for this thing that I gave up. So in those times that I'm longing, like when I would say again, I gave up social media. When I would find myself longing for social media, I would start praying, or I'd open my YouVersion Bible app and read a devotional, you know, something like that, you know, where I was replacing. And I think that's the important thing, is that when you give something up for Lent, it's important to take something else on, because there's going to be a void in your life. And if you don't fill that void, let's face it, the enemy will. You know, like, well, I gave up smoking. Well, what are you doing with your time now? Well, I'm drinking. You know, so like you can fill it with something negative. You know, well, I gave up social media, but now I'm watching TV more.
Yeah.
You know, so it's, what can I give up that, number one, may be a hindrance to me, or number two, is a real sacrifice, something that I love, but I want to give that up for 40 days, just like Jesus had to give up what he did for 40 days in the desert. But
it also reminds you, though, too, I think, in addition to like the sacrifice and like the longing, I think if it's something that you feel like just hinders, or that you spend too much time doing, it just reminds you that like you can live without a lot of stuff. And I mean, and just hear me out, but we were talking about mission trips and things the other night and Tim was talking about how amazing it is, how quickly you adapt to where you are. And I think sometimes we do think, like, we're so used to our world and our routine that, like, I do believe I can't live without my phone. Like, if you took my phone right now, the end would, you know, like Maria with TikTok or what have you, when we had that episode. But it reminds us that you can. The world keeps spinning, and, you know, you keep doing things. And that, because when we were talking about the mission trips, we were talking about how, like, you might be, you know, sleeping in the not best conditions or eating different food. And at first you go into that and all you're thinking about is, this is weird, or I'm not used to this, or I miss these comforts. But, or like for me, I don't like germs. So when I would go on things, it wasn't that the places I were weren't clean or anything, not that, but it's just being outside of my element where I was in control of it. It felt bad, but then 3 days in, you've adapted. And so I think with Lent, it just helps us remember that, like, we really aren't reliant. It kind of reminds us we have more power, I guess, over our choices than we sometimes think we do.
Yeah. So I like Lent.
Yeah.
Like, I really like to challenge myself every year. Like, what is something that I can give up? And I try to immediately go to stuff that are vices,
Yeah.
you know, and sometimes I can think of things and sometimes I can't, you know, and not that I'm perfect, but what I may be struggling with, there's nothing to give up, you know,
Right.
kind of thing,
Yeah.
you know, cause you want something tangible, you know?
Yeah.
Like if you say I worry, well, I'm going to give up worrying for 40 days. Well, that's not going to happen. Like, you can't flip a switch, or you would have done it a long time ago. And so then I think, okay, what is something that I love or I enjoy that I could give up and I would miss? And then the other thing is, what can I take on?
Yeah.
You know, what's something I can do for the next 40 days? That's productive. You know, that's good, because that's the idea. I'll give an example. There was a guy for Lent. He was one of our youth leaders one time, and he gave up like secular music in his car. And he going to work, you know, he said it took him 20 or 30 minutes to go to work. He gave up secular music and turned on the Christian radio station. And he said, you know, he was not a Christian radio guy. I mean, he obviously was a Christian, active at our church. Him and his wife helped out with the youth. But he's like, I'm going to start listening to Christian music. And this would have been late 90s, early 2000s, where really contemporary music was starting to get on the radio and stuff. And I remember years later, he would use that as a testimony for Lent. He was like, I've never turned it off. Like, it just feels good. Like, you know, just getting your heart and mind going to work, getting it set, you know, and kind of having that little bit of Christian music, Christian influence, Jesus influence for that 20 or 30 minute drive. And then coming home after a hard day to just turn it on and just, even if you're not listening, it's filling the atmosphere of your car, and subliminally you're kind of absorbing it all. So there may be things you take on for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Maybe it's this time when you start taking on a morning devotional. Maybe it's a time you start praying with your family. I don't know what it is, but one year I took on telling people thank you. Mm-hmm. And so this was just a couple of years ago. And every morning in Panera, I would send a text or send an email. And I sat down and I created a whole list of 40 people that I just wanted to say thank you to and say, you mean a lot to me. And every morning I would write a text or email to somebody and just say, hey, just thank you. I don't want to tell you that enough. I appreciate your friendship. You mean a lot to me. And I got some really amazing responses. And I wasn't doing it for me.
Yeah.
But I felt like that's what God wanted me to do. I think, I can be selfish and I can be self-centered and I can, focus on me like a lot of people can. And so it forced me to sit down and write them. Now, some people are probably listening to that thinking, well, I never got something from Mike. So maybe I didn't make his top 40 list, but I'm sorry if you didn't.
This year is more around, I kind of have an idea, a concept of what I need to give up. It's something that I know in the end is making me unhappy, but it's not something I can just totally give up. And so, like in years past, like I knew I might not be able to totally give up, for example, Facebook, but one year I gave up mindless scrolling. So I think, and the reason I said I can't totally give up Facebook, that's where, I do some online Bible studies that like I actually lead on Facebook. I've done, we post about the Hope Center in the church. It's where we share things. It's how people know things. So, there's reasons sometimes that you have to be either on a piece of social media, on like a social media site or to use something. And so one of the areas that I'm struggling is I don't want to call it an addiction, but it is this intrusiveness of my phone. And so what I was trying to think about is like, I'm in this bad habit of sometimes like checking work email or emails or, things that are not like putting me in a good headspace. I'm doing that from the moment I wake up all throughout the day into the night, without space from it. So of course I can't be like, well, I'm completely getting rid of my phone because I have a job and I have to rely on that. But I'm trying to think about ways that I can still, do my job, but put some parameters around what that's going to look like. Because I feel like, I've listened to some studies and heard people talk about we never have any time where we're completely away from it anymore. Even if I go on a walk or whatever, I have it and somebody may text or call. And that's a good thing. There have been times my kids have needed me, but you don't really sometimes just have true space without electronics influencing you. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to think, that's one of the things I'm working on in my head is like, what will be these parameters I set so that it truly is a sacrifice, but also, that recognizes that I still have a job to do, and part of it I've thought about, you talked about when you're taking certain things off of your phone so that it's more of a struggle to log in because things like that will even deter you from doing it. So I'm just trying to think about what that's going to look like for me. But I really think that's a space that is making me not feel good. So like the time that I spend, whether it is on social media or if it's doing something like that in my off time, it's not helping me feel better mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
Mm-hmm. I hope you're not mad at me. I hope you don't get mad at me.
Oh, okay.
Now, you didn't know what we were going to talk about today.
Okay.
Obviously, we've said this before.
Uh-huh.
Look at my notes for today. Can you read what that says?
Wait a minute. Hold it.
See.
No, wait a minute.
This is crazy. Beth might get mad.
Lent, CPAP. Wait a minute. Where?
Right above Lent.
Beth on the phone when driving.
Beth on the phone when driving. So here's what I mean by that. This morning, you and I met for coffee at Panera.
Uh-huh.
And we drove separately because you had a meeting afterwards and I had something to do. So we drove separately there. And I got there, parked, got out, and I see you in the car talking away. Yes. You get off the phone, talking away.
Yeah.
We go inside. I'm standing in line. You're like, I'll be back in a minute. I'm going to finish this, yes, and I'm like, and I was going to bring that up, like, in lieu of Lent, actually. Like, that's what was funny is that I was going to be like, do you think it'd be, and I know, your And rightfully so, your argument could be, I have a job where people need, they
may
need to
need
talk.
me even
They may.
before work hours or something. Yes, exactly. There are times when somebody has to call. Yeah.
But could you go 40 days and not once talk on your phone?
Oh, outside of work?
No, like in the car.
Oh, in the car. Oh, I think I could. But does that mean can I not voice dictate a text message?
No.
That's another thing. That's a classic Beth. It's like, I don't want to say, hey, the name, because the phone will wake up and start voice dictating. But I'll be like, send a text message to so-and-so. And then I always have to tell people, please forgive all the misspellings. This is voice dictation. Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I think that I'm somebody that's comfortable with silence.
Yeah, I don't like silence.
You're not.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was funny, the car I drove today, I couldn't get, for whatever reason, I couldn't get my phone to connect to the Bluetooth.
Mm-hmm.
So I just said, all right, forget it. And I just rode in silence. Mm-hmm. And then when Josh got in the car, he was like, turn something on. And I was like, I couldn't get my phone to connect. And Josh was like, well, we're changing that, And so he worked with it till he got it to connect.
Yeah.
But I was totally fine. I think that's what made me think about it this morning is I had just driven to Panera.
Right.
In dead silence.
Yeah.
Like 13 minutes.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get there and you've been talking. I'm like, I know she made that call as soon as she left the house.
Yeah.
And you were probably on the phone before you left the house. And you're still on the phone after we got there. And I thought, could she have done what I just did? We'll use a new term for, they do it in flying. Could you raw dog?
What is a what?
Raw dogging.
Okay.
Have you heard that?
No.
That is a trend where people challenge themselves to take a flight from wherever they start from to their destination, including layovers or whatever. Anytime you're on a plane and you do nothing electronic. You don't touch your phone.
Okay.
You don't listen to music.
Can you bring an old-fashioned book?
Yeah,
but so you couldn't do a Kindle, though.
Yeah. And it's called raw dogging.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they call it that.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, can you go that long without having to be connected to some type of electronic device? And maybe, I don't know. I'm not saying you have to do that, but it's funny that you brought that up.
Yeah, because it's truly, And I don't think, and I mean, I get what you're saying. I don't think the talking on the phone as much in the car. The only reason, the silence would be an issue. But I think more, it's just the distraction that it's kind of like Maria said. How many times do I pick it up and look at it out of habit, or I'm feeling a little low or a little lonely or, a little bored. And instead of just like sitting without a few minutes or praying or reading scripture or doing something productive or any of that, or just chilling out, I reach for the phone to be like, oh, do I have any work emails? Do I have something I need to respond to? It's like that. And I think for me, part of this feeds into that productivity mindset. Like, am I adding any value to the world if I'm not producing something, whether I'm producing an email or a text message or something? It's like, I'm leaving my mark on this minute on the earth, I'm producing something. Like, how do I do when I'm just not doing that? So I don't know if it'll be something around, like you said, like I did do that years and years ago, the quiet in the car, and it was hard. And that was when I was driving outside the home to work and stuff every day. But I don't know if it'll be that, or if it'll be something related to like just picking up the phone and doing it. Or maybe it is just like, okay, you've got to go sit for 15 minutes or something and not talk or not do anything. Raw dog it, as you would say, for 15 minutes, a day. I don't know. I don't know what would be but I feel like any of that doesn't have to be perfect. I feel like any of those things that I take on or give up will probably be sacrificial. It's gonna be hard for somebody. I mean, now other people, that's the other thing about Lent. Like, if you told some people, go sit on your back porch for 15 minutes in the quiet, they're gonna be like, why are you rewarding me this way? That is not a sacrifice.
Yeah,
but
so that's what I'm saying. It's different for everybody.
Yeah.
And I love the season of Lent. I love the fact that it's 40 days. I love that the focus leads you up to Resurrection Sunday. And of course, as Christians, we have the loopholes. So that's why it doesn't count. Sundays don't count.
Yeah.
So if you give up electronics, you can be on electronics on Sunday and not feel guilty.
Well, thinking like a lawyer, I do have to tell this super, super quick. One of the first times I did Lent, I had to go on a work trip, and I had given up caffeine or soda or something like that. No, not a work. I was in law school, and we did a trip, and I remember there was something, and I was like, I really need to have this caffeine. And I was like, I am going to declare this day of Wednesday as virtual Sunday. And so I said, so this Wednesday, I will celebrate it as if it is Sunday. And then on Sunday, I will give it up as if it is Wednesday. I don't recommend that. I kind of think that doesn't I was young.
We're just giving the listeners bad ideas.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. That was lawyer Beth overthinking. Again, I'm saying don't do that. That's not in the spirit of what we're trying to do.
Don't make it legalistic.
Yeah.
It's like, I know some people that are like, well, I wanted to give this up, but after 4 days,
I messed up.
I did it, so I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
Well, no, you just start over.
Well, especially for things that are habits, you're going to probably mess up. That's part of the whole point. I think it's about recognizing oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that I was over here, if you gave up coffee, making my coffee, because you're programmed to do it. It'll just bring new awareness to you about the things you're just doing on autopilot.
Yeah, and it don't even have to be an individual thing all the time. It could be a family thing. You say, hey, we're going to give up an hour of TV a night and sit down and play a family board game.
Yeah.
It could be anything. I'm just giving you an example. But, so I would encourage, I love Lent. And I'm already praying about what next Wednesday I'll be giving up. And we'll see. I got a couple ideas too, kind of you've already bounced around some ideas in your head. But I encourage people to do that. So we'll wrap up the show with this. I said that we were having to record on a Wednesday instead of a Friday. That's because this Friday, Beth and I are heading to Chattanooga. And for Christmas last year, we'll say the year before last, there's nothing I need. There's nothing
really hard
gifts
to buy for.
I'm the guy. If I need it, I just go buy it. But I'm not a materialistic person.
Says the person who's really high up on the love languages with gift giving, but you're very hard to find gifts to give to you.
Yeah, because it's not me receiving gifts. And so I just buy it. So 2 years ago for Christmas, Beth was like, what do you want? And I was like, let's just take a weekend or, an overnight trip, 2-night trip somewhere local we can drive to, just, whatever. And so for Christmas, Beth booked us a trip to Asheville, North Carolina. And so it was really nice. We stayed downtown at a nice hotel.
It was cold.
Walked everywhere.
Walked everywhere. Yeah. But went to the Lunchbox Museum and the Pinball Museum.
Yeah, did all kinds of
did
stuff.
Fun, silly stuff we would never do otherwise.
Yeah, and so we had a great time. And so when this year came around, I'd already started saying, maybe we'll do another one of those trips again this year. And it worked out. One of my favorite comedians right now, probably my second favorite, if not my first, is Dusty Slay. Love Dusty Slay. And Dusty, if you've never heard him, he has a Netflix special I encourage everybody to watch. He's good friends with Nate Bargatze, and their humor is very similar. So if you like Nate Bargatze, who's probably the hottest comic in the world right now, if you like Nate, you'll like Dusty. But Dusty is doing a second taping for a new special that I guess will come out sometime this year. And he's doing it in Chattanooga. And so that's where and it's this Friday. And so that's what Beth got me. So we're going to Chattanooga this Friday. Beth and I are going to be at the Dusty Slay TV taping of his new special. I think we're sitting fifth row or something like that.
Yeah.
So, we're going to be right down there. So I am really looking forward to meeting Dusty. And this is when...
Well, and also, if all these listeners go and listen to his podcast, be sure to tell them that, hey, are you still there? Referred you to him.
Please do. Go listen to the We're Having a Good Time podcast with Dusty Slay or Nate Land.
And then
Nate
comment and
Dusty.
Say, hey, are you still there? Told us about you.
Yes, please. Because we have invited Dusty and his wife Hannah to be guests on our show. I'm not exaggerating. We have invited them.
Needless to say, they have not accepted
They
said
have not
invitation.
Responded. Yes.
It's pretty shocking that they haven't.
But I haven't told you I've done this, Beth, and I plan on carrying this act out.
Oh, gosh.
When Maria goes and meets one of her celebrities.
Oh, yes.
She's a total
fangirl.
fangirl.
Gestures.
She gives them a gift.
Yes.
She gives them a gift, And
like one time we went to the Wallows and we stood in line for like 8 hours, and she had this massive sheet because you couldn't have signs, and everybody in line signed it in different color markers, and she's made collages. I mean, yeah, it's elaborate.
yeah, and so she's Ashley Eckstein.
Yeah,
who is a huge Disney person. She does voices for Disney. If you're a Disney person, you know her. Her and Maria have become friends
because
Maria's
takes her things.
Yeah,
and,
but I mean that's what kind of broke the ice with her. Well, Dusty, in several of his specials, if you listen to him, he talks about working at the Western Sizzlin', and he has a lot of jokes about working at the Western Sizzlin'. I got Dusty a jar of Western Sizzlin' sauce.
This explains so much because I looked in the Amazon cart because I had to make a return, and I was like, what are we doing with Western Sizzlin' sauce? I was like, what is happening right now?
Yeah, I got the idea. I'm a member of a Dusty Slay fan club Facebook page. And
I thought it was going to be Reddit. But anyway, keep going.
And somebody a couple weeks ago posted a picture. They're like, hey, I picked this up at a yard sale, and it was a Western Sizzlin' hat. And then they were joking, like, oh, it'd be cool if we could get that to Dusty. And, well, then, like, that week on Nateland, they were talking about doing meet and greets with fans. And Dusty was like, I like to do meet and greets. I don't, sometimes time is limited. And he just made the off comment. He's like, if somebody brings me a gift, I feel like I got to do a meet and greet with them.
Oh, so now
because they've been so nice. I was like, done. And so I looked on eBay and found there was tons of Western Sizzlin' stuff. Yeah. And so just on a whim, I'm like, I doubt there's anything on Amazon, but I'm going to look. And sure enough, they had Western Sizzlin' sauce. And so,
is it like antique sauce?
No,
or like
it's brand new.
Like, is this
Beth,
okay?
we just ate at a Western Sizzlin' in December.
Okay, I forgot that.
Remember?
Yes, it brought back many memories. Yes.
So it looks like A1 sauce, essentially. But so over on our counter, I have a bubble wrapped a Western Sizzlin' sauce.
Yeah.
That I'm going to put in a little bag with a note, and we're going to take it with us.
Oh, and are you going to set it up, and are you going to make sure you do the right poses? And am I going to be videoing and taking pictures at the same time of the interaction to capture the moment?
That's
what I do for
Maria. Here's
my
fear, is that because he's doing the videotaping.
Yeah.
He has the show we're going to, and then he's doing a show immediately afterwards.
Oh,
and what I've heard that they do is they'll film both shows with the hopes that they just use one, but if they have to cut one into it, they will.
Yeah.
I don't know what his mindset will be, knowing that he has another show after. Because we're going to the early show.
Right.
And there might be an hour in between. Like, I don't know if he wants to just go decompress.
Right.
I don't know if he has time to meet a couple of fans. But this is my Hail Mary. I'm like, you know what? I don't know if I'll ever get a chance to be this close to Dusty again. I'm going to give him this Western Sizzlin' sauce and just see if I get a chance to meet him.
And if you don't get to, we're going to have some Western Sizzlin' sauce on like our dinner.
I'll at least send it back.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll give it to somebody.
Yeah.
He'll get it.
Yeah, he'll get it from me one way or another.
Yeah. So, so I'm a fanboy for Dusty.
This should be interesting.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
And speaking of going on the road, Hey, Are You Still There is going on the road.
Oh, yes. We are going so far away.
All right, Beth, how about I do the show by myself?
Sorry.
You need to be humble beginnings. Come on, Beth. It's got to start somewhere.
Okay, sorry.
I think there's scripture about that.
Yes.
Do not despise your humble beginnings or something.
Anyway, we're going on the road.
We're going on the road. There's a local church, and we'll call them Re3 Church. They, at the end of March, there's a fifth Sunday. And every time there's a fifth Sunday at Re3 Church, they do something kind of different.
Yeah.
And so on Sunday, March 30th, they are going to do a panel discussion. And instead of a normal sermon and worship, it'll be kind of a Q&A panel. And I'm not exactly sure what all they're going to be talking about. But we were asked, hey.
Yeah, this wasn't us.
This was not our idea.
Yeah.
Do you want to do Hey, Are You Still There? And you and Beth moderate the panel discussion. And we'll just do a crossover our podcast. It'll be a live recorded pop-up podcast, and then for them, they'll put it up on their church page and podcast page and stuff.
Oh, and everybody that comes, they'll be able to say, we were there then for the first one, and we knew them before they catapulted to like stardom and became,
This could be the
unapproachable
thing.
people.
Churches may have us come in and do
this.
Hey, are you still there?
I'm sure. Yeah.
With that attitude, Beth.
I'm just trying to be the voice of, I know that I can't believe this because I don't feel like I'm always like this, but being realistic about this.
No, it's like you're pessimistic.
No,
you're a pessimistic,
okay, as an
realistic
aside,
person.
but if you are a lawyer in your job and you've worked and seen stuff in life, you would understand. You've seen a lot of stuff not go the way people dream it will go. And so I just don't want your spirits to be crushed when, every church in the nation, when we're not booked, 52 Sundays out of the year. I don't want you to be crushed.
I'm thinking about making this a solo show. I may not have a co-host on March 30th.
I'm just worried about you, for that reason. Because you have vision for this.
I do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna do some things.
Well, we know we've arrived because someone's made a graph for it, and now we've also been asked, our first guest appearance / whatever, we've been asked to go somewhere. So, yes, we have truly hit stardom in a way that I never thought. I stand corrected because I thought my mom would listen, and maybe my dad, and maybe a few friends. So, yeah.
And we have a lot of listeners.
Yeah.
All over the world.
Yes.
So that's fun.
And a lot of people with sleep apnea.
Obviously. I guess half the world stops breathing every night. That's what it seems to.
Yes. It's kind of like, or do we, now, and this is another statistical analysis, is it that there's that many people with sleep apnea, or is there something about this podcast that draws people
with
that
sleep
have
apnea?
Sleep apnea? Yes, that's our target audience, and we don't even know it. That could be our sponsor. Go back to wherever this machine came from that you have, and let's just tell them if they want to sponsor us that we have done them quite the service talking about.
Well, right now I hate their machine.
Well,
so I'm not
okay,
going to do anything with them yet.
Yeah, so you can't read one of those. You can't read the scripted thing that says, I love my CPAP machine. I sleep like a baby.
Yeah.
You can't do that. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's about it for the show. We're going to go ahead and wrap up.
What was the poll question?
Alcohol.
No,
Yes.
Don't do that. No, that's too. Why don't you do something about Lent, like to Lent or not to Lent, or like if people are going to try to do Lent, or maybe something about what they might give up, or I don't know. The alcohol one's just too much like the coffee.
That's what makes it fun.
Okay, fine.
Fine.
No.
Why don't you come up with the poll question?
No, I'm not. I can't. No, that stresses me out. I don't do that. I don't do intros on the show. I don't come up with the content.
You don't do.
I show up and I talk. Okay, basically, I don't do anything else on this show. So I'm except maybe ring you in on some things like that.
Oh, I forgot to tell you. I'm gonna wrap up with this. I called somebody yesterday, a friend that I hadn't talked to in a really long time, and when she answered the phone, she was like, "Oh my gosh, you're not going to believe what I'm doing right now." And I was like, I hadn't talked to this person in a few years. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're doing. She's like, right now, I am listening to your best podcast. And she started telling me all the ones she had listened to and loved and blah, 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 and what she agreed with or whatnot. And this friend, this is where I'm going with this. This friend gave me an idea. She said, I saw that she tried calling me a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But she didn't leave a message, or at least one didn't populate in my voicemail. I thought, well, I hadn't talked to this person a long time. Maybe it was just a butt dial.
Yeah.
Well, then she texted me yesterday and was like, hey, love to catch up with you and Beth, call me sometime.
Yeah.
And then she sent another message on Facebook. And the Facebook message said, hey, I've tried calling. I sent you a text. You may have a new phone number. So I thought I'd reach out to you on Facebook. We'd love to get up with you and Beth, yada, yada, yada. So as we were talking and she was telling me that, I said, you know what? You've just given me a great idea. From now on, if somebody calls that I don't want them ever calling me again, I'm going to reply, sorry, you have the wrong number.
Oh my gosh.
This is no longer Mike's number. This is Bob, or this is whatever. And then they're just going to delete that number. Is that not ingenious?
I guess. I do have to say though, I think it'll backfire at some point. I don't know. I just don't think it's going to work out.
Sorry, you got the wrong number. And they're going to be like, sorry, and then they're going to delete the number.
I will say though, some people are really delightful when you have the wrong number, because I was texting people. I texted somebody I had not seen in a while at Thanksgiving that I was thankful for them, and the phone number had changed, and the person messaged back and said, well, this isn't that person, but I'm sure they're very thankful for you too.
Well, I mean, I can be,
yeah.
You know, I mean, I can be delightful in my response. Letting them know that I'm sorry, this is not Mike's phone.
Then you can say things like, you don't want to talk to him anyway, or things like that. Like,
he sounds like a great guy, but I'm sorry, this isn't his phone.
But I've heard he has judgy eyes, so you don't FaceTime him if you do find his number.
If you know me and you call me at some point, and the response is you have the wrong number, then you know what that means.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's going to be your version of an out of office message, except it's going to be like,
it's not an out of office, it's out of life.
Like I'm off the grid.
That's it.
That's what you could do. Like Mike's gone off the grid.
Yeah,
he's not.
That is my goal one day.
Yeah,
we'll get into that later.
Yeah, you think you can survive a lot of things that I don't think you can. But we can talk about that later too. Yeah. That's another episode.
That is another episode. All right. Well, it's been fun, and we will, I guess next week, be able to talk about what we gave up for Lent and how the Dusty show was, and did I reach my goal of getting a chance to meet Dusty Slay. Yeah. So we'll see. Next week, you will find out. We'll have some cliffhangers this week for you.
Should be interesting.
All right. Until next time, I'm Mike.
And I'm Beth.
And this is Hey, Are You Still There?